I want to welcome everyone to this evening's community conversation. We've been looking forward to having you here and appreciate you being here. If you could, join me kindly in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation. For those of you that haven't been at the meeting in the past, that was our public dialogue session. The intent is to have conversation. It is a two-way conversation, which is unlike the public session that's part of our board meeting. We'll dig right in and just ask that everyone kindly try and be respectful in your language and if you can, respectful of your time. There are quite a few people here and we have half an hour. With that, if someone wants to step up to the podium and state your name, we'll begin.
Good evening. Is this on? Good. My name is Chris Leisner, proud parent of a senior here at Arrowhead and a freshman here at Arrowhead. I'm also the new president of the Lake Country Swim Team Board. So I wanted to come in here today and personally thank the board and the administration for your transparency, your urgency, and the actions that you all have taken as it relates to the pool and the issues that we talked about during the last meeting. And I think most importantly, I really want to thank you all for having an open mind. I think when we came into the last conversation, clearly there were a number of concerns. I think you guys have been open and listened to what the stakeholders of the community have had to say. And I appreciate you all having an open mind and being as flexible as we can to have a safe and open and operational school. So I really wanted to thank you on behalf of all the stakeholders. Secondly, I think it's important that we understand that the stakeholders that really spoke in the last meeting were people who were very passionate. And a lot of it was parents of swimmers, right? It was parents of Arrowhead Warhawk swimmers, it was parents of Lake Country Phoenix swim members. But I think it's really important to realize other stakeholders in the community are really invested in the school being open as well. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of kids in the Lake Country area that have learned to swim in this pool over the last decades, right? Spoke personally to a family this weekend who all four of their kids learned to swim at Arrowhead. So I think as we have that as an ongoing concern in the community, I think it's important we acknowledge that. Also, we've got a number of older citizens who use the pool for therapy, for aquatherapy, water aerobics, those types of things. Lastly, I think there's a number of other sports teams at Arrowhead and other organizations like the Boy Scouts of America that use that pool for water training, water certification. And not everybody has the opportunity to go somewhere else to get those lessons or that therapy or those opportunities to be certified for a once in a lifetime Scout trip. Not everybody has the means to sign up for a private club or to be a member of the Y. And so this really is a community driven organization, and it's not just about the sports teams. It really is about the community. So again, I really want to thank you all for being open to the dialogue, open to the conversation, and I thank you for the actions that you've taken to date to keep our pool safe and open. So thank you for that. Lastly, like you all, you're a new board, and we elected a new board for Lake Country Phoenix in the last couple of weeks. We had our first board meeting last night, and I really just want to share with you all that as the president of that board, but also as a parent of a varsity boys swimmer and a varsity girls swimmer here at Arrowhead, you have the commitment of the Lake Country board, and you have the commitment of me and many other parents in the Arrowhead swim community, that we will do everything we can to help you in fiscally constrained environment to find a long-term solution for having a great best-in-class facility here at the Arrowhead. Many of you may or may not know, but in 2019, right before the pandemic, Lake Country commissioned a design of a new pool. Many of you may or may not have seen it. We were at the beginning stages of fundraising when the pandemic hit and really shut all of that down. So our first action as a board is to get that back up and going. We understand your position in terms that funds aren't available for fund today, and that a referendum has its pros and cons and may or may not see the light. but you have our commitment to be a partner in that activity, and that we'll work with you and with other constituents and other stakeholders to make sure we find a way to continue that Arrowhead tradition. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Great start.
Anyone else?
Hi, good evening. John Norcross, parent of now one student here, the other one is now graduated. My pronouns are he, him. With the pool, I echo the sentiments. It's good to see a way forward on the pool. Students had to show up to make their voices known then. Students are showing up to make their voices known now. And I really wish they wouldn't have to do that. In November of last year, we had some awful comments that were made about the LGBTQ community. Students stepped forward and let the board know, let the community know how discourse like that affects them. We're now in the same place again. Nationwide, we are seeing the LGBTQ community targeted by policies, by laws, by legislation. Choose your school districts, choose your state. It's happening, and it's reprehensible, and we have to put a stop to it. I'm always going to stand on the side of the bullied and not the bullies. You are going to hear some stories from groups here and students, and I encourage you to take them to heart. Policy 651 about pronoun usage in student names is not a good one. I would love to know how many students were consulted. I would love to know why the original wording and the wording in option B remain the same as that of Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty. There are a lot of questions here, but we've got to listen to the students, and I'm sorry that the students have to keep showing up to fight this battle. The parents will do better, and I hope the board does too. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Spiro Kimos. I talked to the swim board yesterday in regards to something that I started talking about 2+ years ago, and then of course pandemic. And at that time, what I wanted to do was, my son was serving in the city of Milwaukee as a policeman, and I wanted to do something to honor them. Well, since that has happened, he's passed away. He died of cancer in March. So I have a little bit more incentive with what I'm about to talk to you about. I hear, what you're talking about, how important this pool is to the swimmers. It's important to the community. It's not important to a half a dozen swimmers or a dozen swimmers. It's important to the entire community. Okay, we need to have a facility that is not only for our students, but for the residents in this community, for recreational purposes, for the seniors, for a place that they can go. This is not a pool for a swim team. This is a pool for the community. And I believe very strongly that this community has the wherewithal and the ability to get this done and not put all of the burden on the taxpayers. Now, we have a very nice football field out here, don't we? I think a gentleman named Frank Merrick, didn't he put the grandstand up?
Probably Jim Lindenberg.
Or Frank Merrick. All I know is that Don Mullet with the ice rink, the Chiefs youth football program. My kids all went to school here. I've lived in this district since 1949. So I've been around a little bit, but the bottom line is people have all worked together to give more to our kids, to our community. I was involved with the Chiefs when we got the football program started. I was chairman of the fundraising for the ice arena in Delafield. Okay, that ice arena then turned into this because Don Mullet realized what a valuable thing the hockey program was. His kids loved it, and he put up a facility that to this day is probably the finest high school facility in the state, if not the finest high school facility anywhere, ice arena anywhere. So what I'm proposing is, I have a couple of granddaughters that like to swim. Now, we live on Pewaukee Lake, but where we live, you know, the lakes are what, maybe June, July, and August, as far as swimming. So we have taken them in the summer up to the aquatic center in Hartford. And have any of you been there? Okay, it's quite a facility. And there's a similar facility in Watertown. Oh, hey, this is Hartford. We can't let Hartford or Watertown do this. We can do it and do it better. We need to have a recreational facility in this area as well as the regular swim pool. And the reason I'm here is because obviously Arrowhead needs a new pool. There's no getting, was it 50 years old? Okay, I think, well, maybe I was, let's see. Well, I graduated from here in '67, so I guess I was a little before the pool. When we played football at Nixon Park, we played baseball at Nixon Park. There was none of this, okay? So it makes my heart good to drive down these roads and see these kids every afternoon using these facilities. And that goes for the swimmers, okay? I am proposing a recreation facility that would have a new indoor pool, but also an outdoor pool and aquatic center for our kids and our children, our residents to use in the summertime, okay? And I realize that that's not going to be a $5 or $6 million proposition. What I'm proposing is that we look further into creating a recreational district that would include the city and towns of Delafield, the village of Heartland, Merton, all the Stone Bank, North Lake, all the communities that feed into the school to form a recreation district. And the reason I think that's important is because I think it would offer us some areas for funds. My neighbor is Scott Walker, and I had a brief conversation with him about what I was talking about, and he said there are probably funds available for such a venture. All right, so what I'm really looking for is this something of interest to you? Do you believe this is something you'd like to pursue? I know the swim group is taken, they showed me their plan, what they want to do as far as raising money. And I'm just curious and wondering if this is something you think we should pursue, or do you feel just comfortable with where you're at and doing what you're currently are doing?
You know, Spiro, I would, right off the top, I would respectfully also refer you to our first speaker. I think you have a lot in common.
I talked to him.
Okay. And I think moving forward, Daryl might be able to speak to this as well, because I think there were a couple of members of the board that
I have a big enough problem, but actually I'm
that have expressed some interest in being on a committee to really entertain any number of ideas moving forward. So I don't know, I think, Daryl, you have been kind of part of the initial discussion around that, and I don't know if you have anything to add?
Yeah, I think there's definitely an interest. Me and Spiro have been in conversation for probably the last 2 months, talk about the ideas. And, you know, our swimming pool, it's on life support. You know, I applaud our maintenance crew of having it up as long as they have. But as we said in the referendum in 2016, 2017, there's a need there. And unfortunately, the vote didn't go in our favor. And right now, we're looking at it 6 years later. It's like, we really, really need something. So I am excited. After the one board meeting, we did have a couple, including Spiro, but a few other stepping up to the plate and said, yes, I would like to be involved, and this is awesome. So I think I can speak on behalf of the board that we would love to get a fundraising effort moving forward to build a new pool. I think with a referendum based on the historical patterns of the voting, that's something we can't rely on.
One other comment, if I can jump in. So we hear now very often that it's a community pool. And I think everyone that uses the pool from the community knows it's a community pool. The people that don't use the pool, I don't think realize that it is a community pool. So anything like that idea or others, but we got to get the word out to the entire community that this is the community's pool. Because I don't think it's well understood. People I talk to just randomly, I'll ask the question and they say, I didn't realize that. So the more we can communicate that, the more awareness to the community will be. And if it's supported by the referendum, I mean, that's the only way we're going to get the word out to the entire community. So I'd say keep doing what you're doing with
Well,
thoughts and ideas.
Spiro, if I could, I'm sorry to interrupt, but with respect, I think perhaps what we can do is make a commitment to have some members of the board, some members of the community, and in particular, I know that there are some people who've come forward to really work hard on the fundraising for the pool. Perhaps we can try and get everyone together around that at another time.
I'll say one thing.
Of course.
Okay.
Quickly.
See this hat? The whole reason that I believe this can be successful, because this is going to be the first responders honor and aquatic center. We're going to do this with our first responders in mind. And that approach, I think, is very important in this day and age. And I think it will appeal to those who don't necessarily care about a pool. I think we want to honor our first responders. And I mean this sincerely. I'm not doing this or want to do this for my son. I want to do this because of him and all the people like him that give to us every day. Go to work with bulletproof vests on, all right? We need to honor them, and this is what I'm proposing. So yes, I'll shut up and we'll set up a committee and go for it.
No, I appreciate your passion and I'm glad you're here. And we'll make those conversations happen. Thank you.
I just want to make a quick note, Mr. Spiro, thank you for your son's service.
I'm Suzanne Martin and I use she, her pronouns and, I love that cool idea. So, moving on, you made it pretty clear at the annual meeting where the pronoun policy was born. And now that we've seen the proposed policies, especially, I think it's B, whatever the long red one is, you doubled down. You can tell that the pronoun policy comes from your belief that there are two biological sexes. And if a child is telling someone that they don't fit into one of those two designations that fit in with your belief form, then their parents should be told. If a child says that they should be referred to by a pronoun that you don't agree with, then their parents must consent. From everything you've said, it's clear that the true intent of your policy is to ensure that kids shy away from the conversation. And you can go back to your good old days where this kind of stuff just didn't happen here. Those are your words. You say you don't want somebody's sexual identity to be at the forefront at school. Again, these are your words. You said that the sexual identity issue is destroying the family and somehow it's promoting a political agenda. That is not a valid reason to enact any board policy. Preserving the sanctity of the family is not a valid reason to enact a board policy. That's not the business of the school district. And how are you going to define family? Because I guarantee you mine does not look like some of yours or all of yours. What political agenda could some kid's pronoun possibly be promoting? These kids got up last year and spoke to this board about the relentless bullying that they endured on a daily basis at this school in hopes that you would recognize the issue and maybe there would be some relief. And this is your answer. Let's call these kids out. We'll figure out a way to tell their parents and maybe that'll shut things down. Then we don't have to deal with the bullying because they won't exist in my school. The kids affected by this policy are among your most vulnerable at-risk population here. They don't want to call attention to themselves. They just want to get through their school day. And it's not their gender identity or their use of a particular pronoun that puts them at risk. It's your response to them. And if that doesn't move you, then how's this? Your policy, however you write it, violates the law. Any assertion that we're asking all of the parents about their kids' pronouns is a pretext. We can see what the true purpose of this policy is because you've told us over and over. Here's my question, since it's a Q&A. Are you willing or are you prepared to lose teaching staff over this? The teachers here are amazing and they love these kids, and any district would be lucky to get them. What's the policy for teachers and subs, if you can get subs? What's the policy for teachers and subs who use pronouns that don't conform to your belief system? Are they on the hook too? And I guess you can't call their parents, right? And what happens when you have teachers who respect a student's request and use a kid's chosen pronoun, even without parental consent? What's your process there? What happens when a teacher chooses to follow the law and common decency instead of your policy? What's the process if mom approves the pronoun and dad says absolutely not? Are you ready to litigate that one? Have you thought that through? Are you prepared, each one of you on the board, to be named as defendants in a civil rights act? Sorry, because this one means a lot. Are you prepared, each one of you, to be named as a defendant in a civil rights action over this? Have you thought that through? Because it's not the threat, but the promise of litigation that comes with that policy. Either one of those, how they're written at all. And who's going to bankroll your defense? Or do we put off the pool repairs for another 20 years so you can defend your policy on this? Or do you have someone already lined up? Is that the new guy? I don't remember his name. But you can hire your Federalist Society. Well, I bet he was behind that big long red policy. Am I right? Is he paid by the word, or did he just cut and paste from some website? You can hire your Federalist Society lawyer to tell you what you want to hear, but in the end, you still have to follow the law. So I had some questions that were peppered through there. If you want the Q&A, I'd love to hear your answers. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Honesty Ekholm, an openly bisexual senior at Arrowhead. I am here today to speak on behalf of my transgender and LGBTQ classmates. I have a luxury that statistically 42 of my classmates do not have: identifying with my gender assigned at birth. I am cisgender, but for my 42 classmates who are transgender, or for the 207 students who identify as non-binary, they feel most comfortable when using pronouns that differ from their gender assigned at birth. Once again, I am cisgender. I cannot pretend to understand the struggles that genderqueer students go through. However, I can say this. As someone who has gone to this school for 4 years, I have watched as these students, many of them close friends, socially transition. Whether it's going by different pronouns or transitioning from one gender to the other, I have seen the positive impacts their transition has on their high school education. I watched as they went from a state of internal conflict and struggle to being confident and comfortable in their own skin. As stated by Gender Health Query, social transitions relieve anxiety and depression in the moment and are reversible if the child changes their mind. Sadly, a majority of these students come from unaccepting households. By implementing policies that deny students the right to explore their gender identity without parental permission, you are stripping a population that already grapples with suicidal ideation, depression, and self-image issues of a safe and inclusive environment. You are disregarding their bodily autonomy, all while expecting them to learn in an environment that actively demonstrates apathy for their own well-being. These students deserve the same opportunity as their cisgender counterparts, to learn in an environment who accepts them for who they are. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kathleen Truex. I am a parent of a senior and I am a small business owner in the town of Hartland. I am here to oppose the proposed name and gender policy. Here are my reasons. First of all, this policy is unneeded. Through FERPA, a parent can inquire at any time what name and pronouns are being used at school, making this policy completely unnecessary. B, as proposed, it states that the teachers must use correct biological pronouns as assigned at birth. 13 states now do not require gender to be listed on birth certificates. What do you do then? You have a kid from California, they don't have a gender at birth. What are you gonna do? Kids transfer, my child transferred from 4 different states. Federal guidelines now, male, female, X gender, passports. This is not a male-female environment anymore. It is male, female, non-binary. Science says X, XXY, XYY. Those are normal DNA changes. Science no longer says it's male and female. Do your research. It's illegal to gender specify based upon DNA. Next, who is determining if a nickname is derived from a first or middle name? Non-English speakers could be discriminated against. For example, my sister's name is Molly. Her real name is Margaret. Now, if she went to France, would somebody know that Molly is derived from Margaret? You have many people in this community from non-native speaking languages. You have foreign exchange students. Who's approving their nicknames? How is this policy going to be enforced? Who is making the judgment? How is this going to be applied non-discriminatorily? In version B, it states the school will ask the parents after a court order. A court order, you're going to ask the parents if they agree with it? What other policies does Arrowhead have that says it will not comply with a court order immediately? This to me is a thinly veiled attempt to discriminate against non-binary and transgender teenagers. According to the U.S. Department of Education, this is going against their recommendation for transgender policies, and they are already started lawsuits against states because it is a violation of Title IX funding. This is making teens feel singled out and discriminated against. The parent is concerned about their child's gender being discussed at school by FERPA. They have the right to discuss it with the school already. However, this school has decided that they're going to harm the children. I believe that do no harm should be tantamount to all of your school policies. Kids with supportive families struggle with their pronouns and names. The teenage years are trying to figure out who the heck they are. Hey, I was Katie, Kathleen, Kathy when I was in high school. My given name is Kathleen. It wasn't blinked at. No one cared. I changed my name 5 or 6 times. I'm sure you guys went through the same thing. But if I wanted to be called Ken for 6 weeks, according to this policy, you're going to have to call my parents. There's going to be paperwork. There's going to have to be signatures. How crazy is that? Just because you didn't think that my name was now gender typical of my identity? To me, this is a prima facie case of gender discrimination. If the school feels that a name is not designated to the correct gender, then they are going to be treating those students differently. As a small business owner in this city, I am ashamed of this community. I am a recruiter. I know how hard it is to bring people into this community. This policy will make it even more difficult. Young people who are looking for new organizations to go work in are looking for progressive policies that are not discriminatory and are not going to be causing conflict, especially new business owners. This is not a needed policy. If parents are concerned, they can call and talk to the school. If you think it's this important, send out an email at the beginning of the school year saying, you have any concerns about anything, including what name or gender your child's being called, you can call school and discuss it. It's literally already a federal law. Why are you enacting something that is going to open you up to litigation and you're risking losing your federal funding?
Kathleen, I do apologize. Due to time constraints, we're
Yep,
about to
I
start.
was gonna say,
our board
that
meeting.
was it, so.
Thank you so much. I just want to reaffirm that we do have time put aside during our board meeting to hear from all of you. Typically, there is a 30-minute time frame, but you are here